4 of the Maimer, the 4th page of the Maimer, the Oishei on the Hebrew pages, it's page Ayin Vav, and we were talking about that the Tzidkas Purzoino B'Yisrael, that the Yidden being scattered has to do also, and that one Yid can help out the other person, and that's a tzedakah, that we are able to assist each other, because the greatest tzedakah is pidyon shvuyim, redeeming captives, and that only happens when we're scattered beruchnius, meaning that there's some people that are imprisoned when it comes to certain things in the Yetzer Hara, and we, through our not being imprisoned in that particular matter and doing our avodah in that particular matter, we are able to assist and help that person get out of his imprisonment. So we explained that that's also related to the idea of Prozos Teishav Yerushalayim. It doesn't say Tzidkas Pizroinoi, which would mean scattered, which the drush of the Chazal is Tzedakah Asach Kadosh Baruch Hu Pizron Leben Umis. He scattered them, he spread them out amongst the nations, but it's Tzidkas Pizroinoi from the word Prozos Teishav Yerushalayim. So we were speaking about that there's the Yerushalayim that has to be Prozos, expanded without limitations. The difference between, he didn't say this explicitly right now, but the difference between a walled city and a not walled city is a walled city is contained. It's limited. Open city means that's not contained. And since every Yid has the Yerushalayim within themselves, the level of Yira Shalim, the complete Yira, which includes the two levels of Yira, the Yira Tata and the Yira Ilah. And from that, we're going to speak about that in the Yira Tata, since it descends from the Yira Ilah, it has that lower level of Yira, has the level of Yira, that's the Yira Shamayim, the point of Yira Shamayim that's completely perfect and complete, and always there to be found by all Yidden, and that's beyond limitation, like Prozos, like an open city that has no boundaries and limitations to it. Let's go on now in Oishei and see how this fits in the Prozos with the Pizran and so on. Page 4. Though that point of awe of heaven, the fear of heaven that's to be found in every single Yid deep down, is beyond any type of limitation. Still in all, when it becomes revealed, it has in it many levels. The true idea of the infinite and unbounded aspect of the Nikuda of the Yerushalayim, that's going to be specifically when Mashiach comes. That's why it says, that's why when is Yerushalayim going to be not anymore a walled city, an open city? That's going to be when Mashiach comes. Upirish Rashi, and Rashi explains, what does it mean, Prozos Teishav? Not just that it won't need to have the defense of the walls, but also that Yerushalayim will not have a set place, or will not have a measure. So here we see that even in Rashi, on the pasuk in the Navi, where it says Prozos Teishav Yerushalayim, means that it's without limitation. So we find this idea that Yerushalayim of La'asad Lavi was without limitation. So just like the physical Yerushalayim of La'asad Lavi is without limitation, so too the Nekuda of Yerushalayim, the Yerushalayim that's to be found in every Yid, will also be expansive without limitation. Gam Oz, and also then when Mashiach comes, there'll be a sense to no end. Just because it's unlimited, that doesn't mean there can't be going further. Its unlimited nature is such that it keeps on expanding and growing, that in the Yerushalayim we can go higher and higher. And also Rashi says the same thing. Because of Rashi, like Rashi writes in the pasuk Prozos Teishav Yerushalayim, shetigdal miyayim liyayim, that Yerushalayim will increase and grow from day to day. So we see, on the one hand, Prozos means it has no shear. On the other hand, it will continuously grow. V'zeu Tzidkas Pirzoyne Israel. That's why in the pasuk it says the tzedakah of his prozos, of his, like we said, unlimited, completely opened part in amongst the Yidden. That tzedakah, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Yisrael, Shpizer Leben Umas, and Hashem did a tzedakah that He scattered them amongst the nations. The Zeh should never because of Inyan Zeh tzedakah Chula Shpizer and Balashim Pirzoinehu, like we mentioned before. Why does the message of Hashem's tzedakah that He scattered the Yidden amongst the nations, why is it explained in the pasuk via the word Pirzoine, which means prozos and open and so on? This tzedakah that Hashem did for the Yidden, that He scattered them and moves them amongst the nations, because that prozoi, that pizur, that they are scattered amongst the nations, that will cause them, that they will reach this openness, meaning this beyond limitation and boundary of their aliyahs in the bittul to the Eibishter. And the Rebbe explains what's the connection between being scattered amongst the nations and the prozoi stage of that will be the infinite and unbounded Yerushalayim, that will be when Mashiach comes. So the Rebbe says, there's two aspects of this. Through the obstacles and through the different things that prevent them during the time of Golus that a person has to face. Pizer and Leben HaOmos, that He scattered them amongst the nations, both in the simple sense that the nations are giving Him difficulties, and also in the sense that we're talking here in the Maimer, that He is imprisoned, or certain people are imprisoned by the Yetzer Hara when it comes to certain things. So that very scattering amongst the nations, those very challenges, misayreres umisgala nekudas Yerushalayim shebchol echad ve'echad k'tubelechem Yisrael mevur baruch ha'maimer. That is what brings about the inspiration and becomes revealed the point of Yerushalayim in every single Yid Shelamaylim Didavak Bolts beyond any measure and boundary. This is similar also, like I mentioned earlier, about the Atat Tzava Maimer, that the being oppressed in Golus causes through being squashed and so on, that brings Lamoir, that brings the level of Moir, the luminary that's higher than the light. So the same thing over here, this Nekuda of Yerushalayim, that's without any boundaries, that comes about specifically through the challenges. The Yisayim Azu, even more so, this is the second aspect that the Rebbe is pointing to, the Inyan Pirzoinei Reims. The idea of Pirzoinei hints, like it's brought down earlier, the third Ois of the Maimer, on the idea that Yerushalayim will be an open city. Meaning, through the inspiration and awakening of the point of Yerushalayim, the time of Golus, there will be afterwards an increase and an ascent in this point of Yerushalayim, habligvul, in the level that's infinite, that's to be found in it, that will be when Mashiach comes. So the general awakening of Yerushalayim will take place through the concealments and difficulties of the Golus, and especially the infinite nature of that, that's going to be the infinite ascent of it when Mashiach comes, is also caused through the Pizran Leben HaOmos. So now the Rebbe is going to go on further to explain, in this Nekudas of Yerushalayim that we're talking about, the Prozos Teshiv, there are different aspects. Ois Vav, bottom of the fourth page. We could say, the Prozos Teshiv Yerushalayim, the fact that it says Yerushalayim will be an open city, which Yerushalayim is going on the Kudas HaYerushalayim, it's going on the point of Yerushalayim that every single Yid has. Shnei in Yonim, there are two aspects. First, one aspect is Shenekudas HaYerushalayim Atzma Hilamayla Magbola Kanal Sifhei, that the point of Yerushalayim itself, which is what Yerushalayim is about spiritually in the person, is beyond boundaries, like we said before in Oishei, that it has no limitations. Just like the physical Yerushalayim is without any sheer v'ketzav, like Rashi said, the same thing, the Nekuda of Yerushalayim, the essential bittul that a Yid has to the Eibishter, has no boundaries. The Gam, another point of this, the Rebbe says, is Pashtusa Hibligvul. The way it expands outside of that point is also without any limitations. And he says in footnote 43, it's similar to what in the physical Yerushalayim it says that Yerushalayim will expand over the entire Eretz Yisrael. What does it mean that its expanse is without any boundaries? So this itself, the Rebbe divides into two. And this itself, Shnei in Yonam, there are two aspects and components. First of all is Shenekudas Hayir Shamayim Poil B'chol Koiches HaNefesh Sheyu Behesel HaNekuda. That the point of Yir Shamayim affects and influences all the powers of the soul powers should be in corresponding to the point of the Yir Shamayim. This is similar, again, the whole time I'm bringing in V'ata Tetzaveh, it's a similar idea, if you remember from V'ata Tetzaveh, where he also says the Etzem should affect and impact the Koiches of the Koiches HaGiluyim. Another component is not just that the outer powers are fitting the Yir Shamayim, but even more so, that the very point itself is actually expanding in all the soul powers. In footnote 44, he brings down like the Ava B'chol Nafsha, the love with all your soul, means that the love manifests itself in all of his limbs. Like, for example, because he loves Hashem, he runs to do a mitzvah. So that love expands and spreads out into all of his limbs. So the same thing over here, it expands and spreads out in all of his soul powers, meaning intellect and emotions, and not even more externally, ad balavushim, the machshava de bramaisa, until in the garments of thought, speech, and deed. Similar to the simple meaning that Yerushalayim will be an open city. The noise of Yerushalayim, in addition to the fact that Yerushalayim is the central point of the world. From the Shasiya rock in the Beis HaMikdash, the entire world was founded on it. The Yerushalayim itself will expand in the entire world. How is that so? First of all, Yerushalayim is going to expand in the entire Yisrael. And the future Eretz Yisrael will expand in all the lands. In the simple sense, we look at it this way. Yerushalayim will be much bigger, it will be as big as Eretz Yisrael. And if Eretz Yisrael will be much bigger, it will be as big as the entire world. The way the Rebbe is learning it now, no. Yerushalayim will expand in the entire Eretz Yisrael, and Eretz Yisrael with Yerushalayim will expand now in the entire world. So that's just like the Nekuda of the Yerushalayim expanding, influencing, and being felt in all the powers of the soul, even to thought, speech, and deed. Now the Rebbe adds a further point, and this type of means that my doing mitzvahs will affect someone else. Seemingly we could add the fact that it says Pirzoine, which means an open thing, and it doesn't say scattered, which is the point that the Pasuk wants to bring out, that one Yid that's far away from another will affect him, whether spiritually far away or physically far away. Inyan Prozis Teach Yerushalayim, the idea that Yerushalayim will be an open city. It's connected also to the tzedakah that he scattered them, that explained the beginning of the Maimer. Not it's two separate things. When a person is amongst the Ummahs, when he's amongst the nations, show that Golus is going to cause that he's going to reach a level of Prozis Teich Yerushalayim, that the Yir Shamayim will be in a way that's open and expansive and infinite. No. The actual scattering and the effect that one Yid has to do with the other has to do with Yerushalayim being an open city, the Yir Shamayim being unlimited. So he explains, the involvement of Torah mitzvahs of Yidden that are found in a place of freedom, It gives empowerment. It strengthens the Yidden that are in a place that they're being persecuted, that they should be able to study Torah and fulfill mitzvahs, which is what the Frierdiker Rebbe says initially in that Maimer. That is connected with Prozei stage of Yerushalayim, Yerushalayim being open without boundaries. What does that mean? Why is it that way? I believe someone asked this at the beginning of the Maimer. What is it? How can my Torah mitzvahs that I'm doing influence someone else? Why should my Torah mitzvahs affect someone else? Because all Yidden are entirely one entity. And befrat mitzad nekudas hayir shamayim v'bittul shalem, especially when looking from the perspective of the point of Yir Shamayim and the bittul that's to be found in the Yidden. Nekuda machedes is called Yisrael. It's the point that joins all Yidden together. So that point, which is the common denominator and the joining force of all the Yidden, and therefore, it's when I do a mitzvah, it'll strengthen someone else that doesn't have that capability. Therefore, through the involvement of Torah mitzvahs of one Yid, it should empower and strengthen someone else, which is the idea that the Chazal is saying that the tzedakah is that he scattered them. When is it? I have to do the Torah in a certain way. When I do my Torah mitzvahs, permeated with that point of Yerushalayim, that Yerushalayim sits like an open city. That his awe of heaven, his personal Yerushalayim, is in the way that you shall burst forth to the west, to the east, to the north, and to the south. That it expands and it permeates all the soul powers until the thought, speech, and deed of the Yid that's observing the mitzvah. So then when I tap into that, the Kudus Yir Shamayim, which is the common denominator and the joining point of all Yidden, so then my mitzvah will affect the other Yid. We could say, this is also the reason for the fact this explained how come someone in the United States can help out a Yid in the Soviet Union. But this will also be an explanation for those that are not struggling, that are free when it comes to a certain mitzvah, versus those that are in captivity by their Yetzer Hara when it comes to a certain aspect of Torah mitzvahs, that they are redeeming them, they are fulfilling the Pidin Shvuyim Beruchnis, redeeming them from captivity, like we said earlier in Siv Beis. Because every single Yid, even in Rishoyim, Yesh Behel Malkaponim Nekudus Yir Shamayim, there's at least in a concealed way the point of Yir Shamayim. Because every single Yid, even that one that's in captivity by his Yetzer Hara. Therefore, all the different types of Yidden, whether they are tzaddikim, whether they are beinim, or whether they are rishoyim, they are one entire entity. Like it's also hinted in the word tzibur, she'yisraelim tzibur. Yidden are one community, one congregation. Tzibur Rosh Tevis Tzadikim Beinim Urashoyim. That's the Rosh Tevis of the word Tzibur, that it contains all these three. Shekal Gimel Sugim Elu Hemitzias Achas. All these different three categories of Tzadikim and Beinim, etc., are one entity. Va'avav Hashabeteva Tzibur. The vav in the word Tzibur, Tzadik Beis Reish. It's Tzadikim Beinim Urashoyim. The vav is, what is it telling you? Hu vav ha'machaber sarashoyim ha'beinim ha'tzadikim. It's a vav that joins Urishoyim, it joins the Rishoyim with the Tzadikim and the Beinim. Until the head of the entire word is the letter Tzadik, meaning that everything in this word is about being a Tzadik. It's not just the Tzadik is about the Tzadik. The Beis is part of the word that begins with a Tzadik. The Reish is part of the word that begins with a Tzadik. Ve'amich kulam Tzadikim, your entire nation are Tzadikim. Therefore, the involvement of Torah mitzvahs of tzaddikim and beinim, ובפרט כשעסק התורה מצווה שלהם. ובאופן שהם כוללים עצמם כל ישראל ואהבת לרעך כמוך, especially when their involvement in Torah mitzvahs is in such a way that they're being inclusive. I'm not just doing it for myself, I'm doing it for a whole Klal Yisrael. That in their Torah mitzvahs they are permeated by the feeling and the underlying foundation that you should love your fellow like yourself. So poil gamal elo hashvuim b'dei yitzram, it affects therefore also those that are in captivity in their hands of the Yetzer Hara. They should leave their captivity. Tzadikim gam begoli. There shall be also tzadikim in a revealed way, not just in a way that va'amech kulam tzadikim, which the tzadik part is concealed. Top of page 6. This idea that the involvement of Torah mitzvah shall echad nois and koich v'gois gam l'shein, it gives power and strength also to another. Who it's not just in a case where there is a decree of the government that doesn't let him do the mitzvah, as for example, we said the Jews in Russia, or even in a case where the other person is also in a free country, he has the opportunity to do the mitzvah, but his Yetzer Hara overpowered him. The assistance of one yid to another is even in a case when the no fault of not being able to fulfill the mitzvah is because of he cannot fulfill according to Torah, can't fulfill the mitzvah. For example, Yidden that are outside of Eretz Yisrael shall be Torah ef shalahem l'kaimas hamitzvahs atluis ba'aretz. According to Torah, there's many mitzvahs they cannot fulfill because they're in chutz la'aretz, because the mitzvahs are dependent on Eretz Yisrael. Similar to this, there's Golus versus before the Golus. Valderech the Beklal Zman Golus, in similar vein, the general time of Golus, that even on Eretz Yisrael people cannot fulfill certain mitzvahs that they can fulfill in the times of the Beis HaMikdash. Also to the Yidden that are found in Eretz Yisrael, it's impossible for them to fulfill the mitzvahs that were only dependent and only could be done the times when Beis HaMikdash stood. Yet, despite that, because of the fact that all the Yidden that are in all the places and all times are one entity, through Yidden that are in Eretz Yisrael, fulfill the mitzvahs that are dependent on Eretz Yisrael, it is beneficial also, and it helps the Yidden that are in Chutz La'aretz outside Eretz Yisrael. And not only that, but those are separated in time as well. The time of the Beis HaMikdash versus the time of Golus. Similarly, the mitzvahs that Yidden fulfilled in the time of the Beis HaMikdash 2,000 years ago. It assists and is beneficial and it helps the Yidden in the time of Golus. How come? The same reasoning. Since the entire Klal Yisrael throughout all the generations are considered one congregation and one community, the Ein Misa B'Tzibur, it says there's no death of a congregation. An individual can die, but the congregation is always alive. We find that there's a korban in the times of Ezra and Navi. It atoned also for the Yidden that were in the generation of Tzidkiyahu. So we see that there's different generations, and still in all, one can help for the other. That's what it means, the tzedakah of his scattering and also expansion amongst the Yidden. Shpizer Leben Omus, he scattered them amongst the nations. The reason why it says that it's open like an open city, and it doesn't say scattering. Because this tzedakah that Hashem did amongst the Yidden, that He scattered them amongst the nations, is so that they should be able, through the scattering, to reach this open level that Yerushalayim will be when Mashiach comes, the expansiveness without a limitation. Another reason why it says because how does one arrive at that state of expansive without any limitation? It's when we do our avodah now, in a way that our Yerushalayim, our point of Yirah Shalom, our point of Nekudas Hayadus, is in a way that it's expansive, that brings about the tzedakah that my avodah should affect someone else. When I have my Yirah Shamayim fully expansive, that affects another Yid. The noise of Lazashaknis Yerushalayim Begashis V'Gula Mitzvah Aydei Meshechtet Kein Yaydei Avoid Yerushalayim Shleim Sayidid Yiram. In addition to the simple and literal idea of entering Yerushalayim with Mashiach, is through the avodah of Yerushalayim, the perfect year that we have. We know that the coming of Mashiach comes about through listening in His voice. This idea of listening to the voice of Hashem is through awe and bittul to Hashem. Like the Alter Rebbe says, that Yira is the beginning of the avodah and its primary part and its root. The Torah mitzvah should be complete and perfect. You also need love, but the foundational thing is you need a basic yira, kabbalas oil, etc. The main avodah is awe of Hashem. In the Yerushalayim should be an open city. The avodah now also has to be in a way of open, beyond measure and boundary. In general, what's the avodah going beyond boundary? Is the avodah of self-sacrifice, giving up my will. This avodah is a close preparation that should be Yerushalayim, should be an open city, even in the literal sense. Literally, the Geula, Asid Yerushalayim Shtispashet B'chol Eretz Yisrael, in the future Yerushalayim is going to expand in entire Eretz Yisrael. V'Asid Eretz Yisrael Shtispashet B'chol Avrotzis, in the future Eretz Yisrael is going to expand in all the lands. This will be accomplished like all matters of Mashiach's times, through our actions and service throughout the time of Golus. The Torah avodah in general, the avodah involves Torah and the avodah of davening and doing acts of kindness. Like the Chazal statement in Mesechtes Brachos at its beginning, what we learned in the last Maimer, they redeemed in peace, not my soul, from those that battled me, because I was together with many. He was together with me with many. Whoever is involved in Torah and Milsasadim with a minion, I consider it as if he redeemed me and my children from amongst the nations of the world. Especially, how does Mashiach come? Through the avodah of spreading your wellsprings outward. Through that, the Master, this is the King Mashiach, will come. Like it's in the holy letter of the Baal Shem Tov that he wrote, that he heard in the chamber of Mashiach. He heard this personally from Mashiach in the chamber in Gan Eden where Mashiach is. That's what it means tzedakah. They scattered amongst the nations. Through our actions and service throughout the time of Golus, and the three lines of Torah avodah, especially, is spreading the wellsprings outward. That's in every single day. He now knows in addition to the fact that every single day that we find in Golus, and we are doing this avodah, becomes a spiritual redemption, like the Chazal say, as if He redeemed me. Every single activity in the three lines of Torah avodah and in the Hafetz Me'al Chutza, all combined to the great accounting of tzedakah that brings the Geula close. Kipshuta begashmis, literally in the physical. Sha'azia protestation Yerushalayim gam begashmis. Then Yerushalayim will be an open city in the physical. Bebias Mashiach Tzedkenu b'karav mamash, in the coming of Mashiach Tzedkenu speedily mamash.